Hey everyone, and welcome back to another news alert. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and thank you so much for tuning into Boyd News. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more updates like this. And feel free to support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee. Links are in the description below the video. All right, well, good to have you all back again for more news out of this war with Russia and Ukraine. I've got a breaking news report from Russia's oil and gas industry to start the update off with. A huge refinery located in the Samara region has seized all oil processing operations due to a recent Ukrainian drone strike. And this is a refinery that has been shut down several times this year for repairs from numerous attacks. Let's go ahead and take a look at this new story on your screen. It says Russia's Syzran Oil Refinery shuts down. The Rosneft refinery has suspended oil processing due to equipment damage caused by a drone attack on December 5th. Repairs to the plant could take several weeks before completion. So once again, the Syzran Oil Refinery located in the Samara Oblast of Russia shut down again for repairs. And we heard just back on December 5th when Ukraine carried out this drone attack, reportedly they had struck a major oil processing unit once again, and this is what's causing the operations to be seized at this location. So this is a huge refinery located in Russia, one of the largest, and now being shut down for, I want to say, at least 3 or 4 times already this year. We've reported this facility being shut down numerous times in the past. So crazy news. I'm going to show you guys a report that talks about this today. And then stick around towards the end of this video because I also have some updates from Volodymyr Zelenskyy, the Ukrainian president. He has made some statements regarding this war and some of the peace plan proposals. So let's talk about this. Let's go ahead and jump into the news. We'll hop it over here to a mainstream news report out of Ukraine known as Ukrainska Pravda. It says major Russian oil refinery has seized all operations since Ukrainian drone attack, Reuters reports. It's coming out today, December 9th, 2025. There's the date right there. And it says Russia's Syzran Oil Refinery has stopped processing crude oil since it was damaged in a Ukrainian drone strike on December 5th. Ukraine and Russia are continuing to target each other's energy infrastructure as peace talks stall. By the way, this was originally being reported from Reuters. It says Ukrainian forces said on Friday that they carried out long-range strikes on an oil refinery in Syzran and the Temryuk port in Krasnodar Krai on the night of the 4th to the 5th of December. The sources told Reuters that the drones hit the CDU-6 crude distillation unit, a key refinery equipment that had previously been targeted by drones in August when it required 2 weeks of repairs. One source said the current repairs could take about a month. Okay, so at least about a month, going to be shut down for sure by the end of the year. It'll probably come back online in January, and then I wouldn't be surprised Ukraine will go ahead and strike it again because, as I mentioned numerous times this year, this plant has been shut down. So huge damage to Russia's economy this is going to cause, and more shortages of fuel inside Russia. Now, something I wanted to know, we've been talking a lot recently about fuel shortages inside of Russia. We haven't been hearing too many reports of that, so it makes me wonder if the Russians are kind of getting that back under control now. But this is definitely going to cause more shortages over there. So huge news. Now we're going to jump on over to X. I've got a few things I want to get you guys caught up on over here as well. We'll jump on over to X with Bliskovka. Zelenskyy stated that there are currently 3 documents related to the preparations for peace. The first is a framework document with 20 points, which is constantly being refined. The second concerns security guarantees between Ukraine, the USA, and European partners. The third is about post-war reconstruction. The President clarified that Ukraine and European countries have not yet submitted a joint peace plan to the USA. National security advisors are working on it today and tomorrow, including refining issues of Ukraine's possible membership in the EU and the use of frozen Russian assets. So there's a lot going on right now. Zelenskyy talking about 3 documents that are being worked on right now that will be presented to the USA. So it talks about this first document with the 20 points. That's going to be their major peace plan that they're working on right now. Second one is going to be security guarantees. We know that that's a huge one for Ukraine. Ukraine will not agree to ending this war unless they have huge security guarantees from Europe and the United States especially, and not just on paper. They want to make sure that the USA, for example, is going to come to back them if they are ever attacked by Russia in the future. And then finally, the third one talking about post-war reconstruction. because obviously inside of Ukraine, there's a lot of things that are damaged and destroyed. It's going to require billions upon billions of dollars, maybe even in the trillions, just to repair everything that's been lost and all these areas that have been completely wiped out due to the devastation of this war. So yeah, clearly a lot going on right now. This was a statement coming out from Zelenskyy today. I think he was speaking to the press. Got a few other things I want to share with you too. Max 25, we know that the U.S. is not yet ready to see Ukraine in NATO, said Zelenskyy. These are not some games. It seems to me that this is open information, but this is definitely a question of the future. Today we are considering effective security guarantees from the European side. Zelenskyy also noted that bilateral security guarantees between Ukraine and the U.S. are very important for Ukraine. Okay, so he did comment on Ukraine getting into NATO. But he's talking about these security guarantees that, yes, they want to get into NATO. We know that Trump does not want Ukraine in NATO at all. But clearly they need some sort of form of security guarantees. So there's been some proposals being floated around, for example, from Italy. Giorgia Meloni, the prime minister, has claimed that maybe they can come up with some sort of security guarantees for Ukraine that's in a style of NATO format. For example, NATO Article 5, but not necessarily having Ukraine in NATO, but they could form some sort of security guarantees based on that. So apparently that's a large part of what they're working on. And then today, I did let you guys know that Zelenskyy was meeting with Giorgia Meloni. So that's probably what they were discussing, was some sort of form of security guarantees for Ukraine. Now from next, Zelensky's urgent press conference, the key points. So here's 4 things that he was also mentioning. Tomorrow, Zelenskyy will present Trump with a new peace plan. It is currently being finalized together with European partners. Okay, so apparently that's not going to be today. We heard that it was possible that the Ukraine would hand over this peace plan to Trump today. Apparently it's going to be tomorrow, is what he stated. Ukraine is not negotiating with Russia. Moscow shows zero interest. Okay, so we're not seeing Ukraine directly communicating with the Russians at all. He was kind of reiterating that. He also said Ukraine is ready for an energy truce, but only if Russia is ready as well. Thought that was a big one because we've been seeing Ukraine striking so many energy sites inside of Russia. Russia doing the same exact thing. I just talked to you guys earlier this morning that there's massive power outages inside the capital of Kiev right now due to strikes on critical energy infrastructure. And then obviously we just talked about the Syzran Oil Refinery going down. So all those different attacks would essentially cease if Russia was open to a truce on attacking energy targets in each other's nations. Finally, it says here Ukraine is already using the Sapsan OTRK with ballistic missiles. It is also deploying at the Long Neptune, Palinitsia, Flamingo, and Sapsan missiles. Okay, this is very big. So for the first time, Ukraine is claiming, at least President Zelenskyy is stating, that they're utilizing the Sapsan ballistic missile system now. We've been talking about that since I want to say back in March or April of this year, that Ukraine was getting close to starting to deploy these. Apparently, they have started using them now, and Zelenskyy also mentioned today that he did not want the enemy, which is Russia, to know how many missiles they have or anything like that. He wanted to keep them guessing. All he stated is that they are utilizing these different systems here. So Long Neptune, we know about that. That's a 1,000-kilometer range Neptune cruise missile, Palinitsia rocket drones, Flamingo cruise missiles with that 1,100-kilogram warhead, then obviously the Sapsan ballistic missiles. So that's very big news. Ukraine is now apparently deploying ballistic missiles onto Russia. So huge update there. Now, Max 25, I'm ready for the elections. The issue of the elections depends on the people of Ukraine, says Zelenskyy. The president called the story that he is allegedly clinging to the chair of the head of state an inadequate story. And it says, quote, since this issue is raised today by the U.S. president, our European partners, I will answer very briefly. I am ready for the elections. Moreover, I am asking the U.S. now, possibly with the Europeans, to ensure security for the elections. And then in the next 60 days, Ukraine will be ready for the elections. I personally have the will to do so. I ask that the deputies prepare legislative proposals on the possibility of changing the legislative framework and the law on elections during martial law. So that's huge news, guys. That really seems to me like Ukraine is very much preparing for this war to come to an end. A lot more serious than maybe some people believe it is. I know a lot of people might think, no, this war won't come to an end. And maybe you're right. Maybe it is not going to end. But when you get some statements like this, it definitely seems like Zelenskyy could possibly be preparing to step down and have somebody take over. We keep hearing that this would happen after the war comes to an end. So I thought that was interesting. You guys let me know what you think on that. But definitely replying to Trump, as Trump was coming out saying in an interview last night with Politico, he was telling Volodymyr Zelenskyy it's time for elections inside of Ukraine, okay? And Zelenskyy stating that he's not clinging on to power. He is willing to hold elections in the country and let the Ukrainian people decide who should be the next president. So, interesting statement today. Now, the Ukrainian Review, Financial Times reports Zelenskyy told his European counterparts that during a 2-hour conversation on Saturday, he was pressured by Witkoff and Kushner to make a quick decision and agree to territorial concessions in exchange for unspecified U.S. security guarantees. Trump hopes Kyiv will agree to a deal by Christmas. Zelenskyy told U.S. envoys that he needed time to consult with other European allies before responding to Washington's proposal, which Kyiv believes could split the West. One Western official described the Ukrainian side as caught between territorial demands they cannot accept and U.S. demands they cannot reject. So this does not sound good today coming out from the Financial Times. We heard about this morning. I reported to you guys that the U.S. was still pressuring Zelenskyy. Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, after they left last week meeting in Moscow with Vladimir Putin, they immediately called Zelenskyy and demanded over the phone that he give up the Donbass over to Russia. And allegedly, Zelenskyy did not agree to that because he came out just yesterday telling the press that they would not give up any territory over to the Russians, for example, the Donbass, which is what Russia's calling for right now. But this report also talks about the fact that Zelenskyy told U.S. envoys that he needed time to consult with other European allies before responding to Washington's proposal. So we've been seeing that over the last few days. He's been going around to all these different nations, talking to all these high-level European leaders. And then this report allegedly claims that a Western official described the Ukrainian side as caught between territorial demands they cannot accept and U.S. demands they cannot reject. So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place right now, where they cannot give up this territory legally under their constitution, is what Zelenskyy says. And at the same time, apparently this is like a one-for-all deal coming from Trump, okay? And we keep hearing also that there's security guarantees that are tied to this, but apparently they're vague and not very strong, okay? So it looks to me like Ukraine is being put in a very horrible position here, and this war could come to an end that is unfavoring to Ukraine. But let me know what you think on that story today. All right, now finally, one more update coming out from Bliskovka, and this is a little bit different, not relating to Volodymyr Zelenskyy, but it is relating to Ukraine. It says a member of the British Armed Forces has died in Ukraine, the country's Ministry of Defense reported. According to the ministry, he suffered fatal injuries in a tragic accident while observing the testing of a new defense system by Ukrainian military personnel, which took place far from the front line. Here's a report from the Ministry of Defense in UK. It is with deep regret that we must announce that a member of the UK Armed Forces died in Ukraine this morning, Tuesday, December 9th. He was injured in a tragic accident while observing Ukrainian forces test a new defensive capability away from the front lines. The family has been notified and our thoughts are with them at this sad and difficult time. So terrible tragedy inside of Ukraine today. This member of the UK Armed Forces or British Armed Forces has lost his life. Looks like they were trying to test some sort of new air defense system or defensive capability for Ukraine. Something happened. Maybe the system blew up or something and unfortunately took his life. So very sad news. Lots of mainstream news picking the story up today. Just wanted to share that with you and let you know what happened here. So definitely have some thoughts and prayers for this gentleman here, most likely that lost his life inside of Ukraine, trying to help them defend themselves. Very, very sad news, ladies and gentlemen. But I want to thank you so much for tuning in for today's update, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day out there. Enjoy your Tuesday. Let me know what you think about all these details down below in the comment section. That's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.